and welcome to Thinking Solo. I'm Ryan Derousseau, founder of Thinking Cap Financial. Today, I'm here with Brie Chrisman. She's the founder and CEO of Bosco, which is an operations management and growth strategy agency dedicated to mental health private practice owners. With over 15 years of experience in project management and operations, she's redefining how businesses can maximize resources and increase profits without adding to all the stuff that people who operate small businesses have to manage. Thanks for being here, Brie.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah,
Great intro.
yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's your words, okay? so, but no, I really appreciate you being here. It's funny how we met, and so I have to kind of give a background of that because I showed up at a psychotherapy conference, and I showed up hours before the thing actually started, but I could only be there for like an hour. And so the goal of that was not to like meet clients, it was meet professionals who are servicing mental health practitioners. And so I went into the area where everyone's setting up to sell stuff and the promoters and whatnot, and no one was ready to talk. And I was just went up to people and I started talking to them, hoping that they would be willing to talk to me. And Brie was kind enough to actually lend me a lot of her time. So I've always remembered that and always wanted to always circle back when created this podcast.
Yeah, it was really good because it was our first conference that we've ever gone to, and so we were so excited to set up all our branded stuff, and we had just rebranded too with a new name and everything. So we were pumped to like see it in big letters and everything. And then Ryan came along, and we were just so pumped to talk to people. And then Ryan came along, and he was super nice. We started talking, and the fact that it's also that you are someone who also supports mental health practices. And so having you as our first contact was great because we assumed that wrongly, but we assumed that most of the people we would meet would be mental health providers. And
Mhm.
so it was really cool for that to be our kickoff conversation for the conference.
Well, I'm glad I didn't waste your time then. So
No,
like,
no,
that's
not at
good.
all.
Uh, but I am excited to learn more about your journey here because, we were talking business, we weren't talking about personal stuff. And so I'm really curious, how'd you start Bosco? How did this come to be?
So I feel like this is going to be a story for a lot of people. But so I started the company in 2020. I have a background in sport event management and project management, which includes operations and all of that, just in an event setting. And I had had my first child in November of 2019, went back to work January 2020, and then got laid off March 2020. It was we had just gotten into the rhythm of like daycare drop off and things like that, and then just gone. And so being in a background with operations, with sports, with events, with marketing, there was no marketing, there were no sports, there were no events. And so my career path was pretty much gone for the foreseeable future. And I loved staying home with my son. It was really nice to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And also, I say that now, looking back, that it was really nice. At that point, I was panicking. I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I realized that it's like I have all of these skills, and every job I've ever had, I have left it better than when I came in with standard operating procedures and easier ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things. And I was like, I could do that for myself, and be able to monetize it and make money for myself and not for someone else. And so in July 2020, I decided to create what was essentially a like virtual assistant operations, like a virtual operations assistant company. I got my first client in August. I was booked out by December, and all based on referrals, which was wonderful.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then I brought on my first team member a year later. And then because of a great referral system, we ended up about 3 years in, we ended up with 90% of our clientele was mental health providers. And so I, um, I kind of sat down with my operations manager and was like, what do you think if we just do a controlled burn of the company and really lean into mental health and really, because those are our favorite clients and most of our favorite clients. It's the work that we love to do because we can actually make a difference. um, in a meaningful way and make a bigger impact in the field itself. And so in 20 that was actually right when I met you is we rebranded completely into mental health and we switched the name and we haven't looked back and it's been great. We've been able to the kind of the goal for us in growth and scaling and all of that is the ripple effect that we want to create. So um if we can support a mental health provider that's a practice owner where they're burned out and overwhelmed and like want to burn the world down because they can't help as much
A,
as they
a,
want to.
a common issue in the mental health field. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, especially in this day and age where everything is just on fire. Um, if we can help them take a little bit off of their plate or just make their lives easier, then they can be a better leader for their clinicians. They can be a better therapist for their clients. And then their clinicians can be a better therapist for their clients. And those clients can be a better mom, dad, sister, you know, friend for their people in their world. And so our little, operations agency can really create an impact in the just in the world as a whole.
Mhm. I mean, I love that because yeah, you might say it's a common story, but, like, there was a lot of pressure at that time. Like, I was self-employed at the time, and I lost, 70% of my clients overnight. Like, it
Yeah.
was just like and I remember, going to billion-dollar companies being like, "Give me my money," because,
Yeah.
that's what it results in. But it's almost like the pressure, builds diamonds type of notion because it kind of forced you to think outside of what you would normally do on your day to day. But I am curious in terms of that sort of shift. Were you already like contemplating the idea of wanting to open your own shop, or was it like like a full on like yeah go? You seem
I
to have a response.
I so part of me, like in my entire life, had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just knew that I could make something really cool and Um, part of me is like, "Well, I can do this better than other people." Um, which I feel like you need some of that, ego a little bit
Yeah.
to, like, have have the bravery to start your own company. Um, but I don't take risks. I am not a risk taker. I am not a, like, leap off the cliff kind of person. I'm very much an operations person. I need a plan. I need, like, things in order. I need to know what's gonna happen. And so, to be honest, the beefed up unemployment, money that we got from, the government and everything that allowed our family to be able to, like, keep our house, keep meals on the table, all of that it gave us the safety net for me to jump all in.
Hmm.
And it was interesting because at the time, I had, of course, been applying for jobs knowing that there was hardly anything out there. But I live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and I got to the third round of interviews with our NBA team here, the Hornets, and
Oh,
which would
nice.
be a dream job,
Yeah, that'd be
like to
amazing.
work for a professional sports company. And yeah, ended up turning them down. 'Cause I was like, it was one of those things where they got back to me for the 3rd interview, like, a month after I started my company, and I was like, "What do I do? Like, do I take this risk on myself, or do I go with something I know and I'll be miserable because I'd have to commute, like, 45 minutes into Uptown Charlotte. I'd have to be at every single basketball game home game. I'd have to be at every single event that they have at the Spectrum Center, which is where they play.
Hmm.
And that's a lot. If they had given me this job, like, this opportunity 5 years earlier, I would have been like, absolutely no problem. But I was a mom at that point, and I was like, I don't want to be spending every night out at my job, and like I'm past that point. And so I took a leap and I bet on myself, and which was crazy because I gave up the dream that I had had for most of my life.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So yeah, it was really interesting. But no, I definitely would have never taken that leap if I hadn't had that safety net, which of course is I'm very glad that I was able to have that because I know a lot of people don't have that safety net when they jump.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I'm a huge basketball fan. That's my favorite sport, and like I think of like if the Mavs came to me with a job, would I be like,
Yeah.
hmm, you know?
Yeah.
But honestly. the idea of those businesses, because I've known people really high up in those businesses, so they're like very connected to the owner, which means basically so the billionaire who owns the company. It is very top heavy, and it becomes a grind. So I think you probably made the
Mhm.
right choice there because of
Yeah,
that.
I never would've yeah. I think I would've regretted it had I made that decision for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So in terms of like kind of setting the state of your business today, how big is the business now? And then what do you imagine for it moving forward? How big do you want to get it? However you sort of like measure that, and how do you hope to get there?
Yeah, so we are a team of 6, including myself. We have about it's like 11 or 12 retainer clients, plus some clients that we consult with and just do special projects. Um, and so because we have built a really awesome reputation and we have proven ourselves to be really good at what we do. And so most of our clients stay 2+ years because we grow with them. And we have templates and we have um, specific ways of doing things, but we're not a one size fits all company like a lot of people in the industry of people that kind of do operations and like leadership in the mental health field. So like we take what we do and we apply it to their specific company, which is we have found is a really great way to run a business. But so like I have one of my clients that was she's like the second client I ever brought on in September 2020, and I just had a meeting with her this morning. She's still one of our clients, and so it's just really cool to see, and you build those relationships and everything.
Hmm.
But so for growth wise, I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I want to be $1 million company. I want to be $1 billion company. I want to have 900 clients." And I look at it a little bit differently. I look at I want to not be a thought leader, but I want to have our company be in front of as many people as possible so that we can help as many people as possible.
Hmm.
Whether that's through our services, whether that's through our, free and low cost downloads, whether that's through webinars so they can just get some free information. And the more people we help and you know, the more we can support mental health owners or mental health business owners learn how to run their business, the more like that's the clients will come, the revenue will come.
Hmm.
And so we are very much like information educational heavy because I'm sure you know this, Ryan, but in all of the schooling that anybody in the mental health field, all of the schooling that they go through, they get 0 business
Yeah.
classes. And so and when 50% go into private practice, that's crazy. So you're going into private practice not knowing anything about
Yeah.
business. Most most therapists are creative minds, and so they don't necessarily have that business mind either. Don't know where to start. They just want to help people, and so that's kind of why we honed in on mental health so that we can help them help people. So as much business information we can give, um, we know that the revenue and the clients and the scaling will follow.
Yeah, and that little piece there, it like baffles my mind a little bit. And I've even gone to associations and stuff like that, and being like, hey, like, your clientele has never taken a class, like let me give them like a quick like 101 business class so they know. Because the one thing that I always hear from people is like, oh, should I start an S corp? That's like the big one, because there's a lot
Mhm.
of people in the space who are like, "Oh, start an S corp, start an S corp." But it's just a business structure. It's not like a panacea, and there's a lot of like layers to starting an S corp, and there's a reason why, and there's a reason not. But they just hear the term, and so they're just like, "Okay, let's do it." And if they had just like a little bit of a business like 101, they could at least
Yeah.
like get started, but understand like
Yeah.
how QuickBooks may work or something like that. And it surprises to me how hesitant associations are to for that type of content
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And so one of my goals for the next couple of years is to get CE accredited. So
Yeah.
that way we can speak at conferences and that way providers can go to conferences and get their CEs for ethics and for, all of the different pieces that they need, but also business
Yeah.
and being able to learn how to run their business while getting the CE credits that they need.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And if hey, if you need a partner in that, I'm with you there because that
Perfect.
that is something that really needs to happen. So when you were, I mean, your business kind of started off with a big hurdle. But as you were starting to build, have there been any hurdles or like personal or professional, as you were building the business and how'd you get kind of overcome that?
Yeah. Not so much professional. I mean, professional, of course, there's always hurdles. And so that's just, I call it entrepreneur tuition, the hurdles that you go through and the mistakes you make and all of that. But the past probably since 2021, it's been constant hurdles in my personal life. I have so I have two kids. My son is 6, my daughter is 3. My 6-year-old is autistic, but he also has severe, like, complex medical issues that stemmed from getting COVID when he was 2. So his body did not fight off COVID like most people, and he ended up um, being diagnosed with, because of COVID and how it affected his system, he ended up developing a bunch of autoimmune diseases. One is called PANS. It's a form of encephalitis, which is brain inflammation. Another is mast cell activation syndrome. And he has issues with mold and a lot of sensory issues. And so that's been a battle of epic proportions, just to get people to hear us and, like, things are happening. Like, our son changed overnight. He went from this super crazy, like, crazy energetic but chill, funny kid that, like, never had a tantrum, was always just like the life of the party, to a kid, and also slept through the night at 3 months and ate literally everything under the sun, to a kid a week after he had COVID, not eating, not sleeping, aggressive, um, massive meltdowns all the time. And so we spent about 3.5 years trying to figure out exactly what was going on with him. And then in June, we finally found a specialist, out of pocket, of course,
Yeah.
in Florida. So it was an 8-hour drive for us. We went down to Orlando and met with this doctor who was wonderful, and was able to figure out what was going on. He also has Lyme disease and Bartonella, which is a Lyme co-infection. So all of this is just like giant inflammation in his body, and it just affects everything. He's on like 25 different medicines and supplements right now. He's in therapies and all of this, and it's very expensive. It's very financially draining. It's very emotionally and mentally draining. And, you just want to see your kid happy and healthy. And, yeah, trying to run a business through that and through the burnout of parenting through all of that has been really, really rough. The analogy I came up with was that for 3.5 years, we were trying to find Mount Everest without a map. And now that we found it, we have to climb it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, yeah, so that's been our big, Mount Everest of while trying to start and grow and run a business.
I mean, that's really tough because that's the personal side, which obviously overtakes everything. And so it also speaks to why you have a team. And it's clear that you built a team around
Yep.
you because you need that support if you're going to also
Mhm.
build a business. But I'm really, I can't imagine going through that myself. I mean, you obviously have kids, and I have a 3-year-old daughter who I describe like most 3-year-olds are unreasonable 50% of the time, but she's unreasonable 99% of the time. And
Oh, our daughters would get along
yeah, yeah, exactly.
very much.
And she never sleeps through the night. She has to sleep with me in particular. And building a business just with the lack of sleep is hard enough. So add on the health concerns and whatnot, that's really an incredible feat. But I'm glad you're kind of pointed in the right direction now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's never over. Like, we have, over break, we were switching up medications, and that caused a flare, and so he was backsliding a ton, and so it's just, that constant up and down, that constant walking on ice and waiting for the other shoe to drop and every other analogy that comes with that. And I actually, because of the burnout, because of the lack of sleep and the stress, in November, just a couple months ago, my body broke down and I had started having hemiplegic migraines, which are stroke symptoms.
No.
And so I was in the ER 3 times in November, and I couldn't work. Like, I had my cognitive function went down about 50%. I was having trouble, like, remembering words, and I couldn't sequence, so being in operations and strategy, I literally couldn't do my job. I couldn't look at a computer for more than, like, 45 minutes, so I was working maybe 5 to 10 hours a week, and our business ran so smoothly, there was no issues, and we had just onboarded 4 new clients and 2 employees in October. So it really needed me, and yet my team crushed it. I mean, the 2 people that we onboarded were the perfect people to onboard because they just took it and went for it. And but yeah, we ended the year up in revenue a little bit, and nothing fell through the cracks. And it's just a testament to, how the company culture we've built and how the team is run, and that we have those, like, checks and balances in place. And um it's just it's the company that I need for my life, but also the company that, because they'll do it for me, but also we'll do it for every single one of our team members if they have an emergency. And so, um, yeah, it's a really good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to creating like layers of protection, like whether you're a single business or you have a few employees like yourself, creating that layer of protection, what that is depends on your situation. I'm curious, how did you find your team and train them in order to ensure that they could, um, basically run it while you're like dealing with far more important things?
Yeah, my operations manager is by far the best story of hiring. The client I told you about that I've met with this morning, that's been with me for 5.5, almost 5.5 years. She went to Western Carolina University, and she lives in New York City, and she went to just a random, like, all major mixer, and met this woman, Allison, who also went to Western Carolina, obviously, because it was a mixer. Um, and Allison did admin work and things like that, and Mary, my client, was like, "Oh, well, I don't need someone, but I know my ops manager needs someone." And so I interviewed Allison, and I was like, "Hey, I'm 7 weeks pregnant, and I need someone to take over for me for a maternity leave. You want the job?" And she was like, because we vibe very well. There was literally no interview process whatsoever at that point,
Hmm.
and she came on and she ran my company for 8 weeks for me, so I could take a maternity leave, and she'll be with me 4 years in next month. And so
Very cool.
she was, she's wonderful. She helps me run the day to day. The other people I found through LinkedIn, our went through, like, over 600 applications in October, which was
Wow.
super fun.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but, I mean, we found really, really great people, and, the way that we train, I do, we do, you do. So we typically, when someone first comes on, we meet, like, 3 times a week for an hour, and it's very much like co-working. As we're doing the tasks that need to be done, they're shadowing, we record it so that they can have it as, you know, um that they can look back on. And then once we're kind of like, okay, how do you feel about it? So then once it gets to a point where they're like, okay, I feel like I can try it, then we do it together for a certain amount of time. And then they do it solo with us watching and us, like, helping them through. And then once they're comfortable with it, once we're comfortable with them doing it, then they're on their own. Always knowing that there's a safety net and there's people that can support them at any time.
Hmm.
So it's super, super supportive. And so that's, I think, why we are so successful as well.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
about like a 90-day training period.
I mean, it's great because 'cause you're really empowering them, is really what it sounds
Yes,
like. So that's
exactly.
that's amazing. So with all that's going on, how do you relax? Like, what do you do to unwind? Since, like, I know in my life, I have, like, 30 minutes at night. So, like, what do you do?
first, what is the definition of relax? Just kidding.
Yeah, what's that word mean?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I actually my own therapist had to read me the definition of rest a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
so if that gives you any indication. I am an audiobook fiend.
Okay,
So, like, anytime that I'm driving to preschool pickup or doing grocery shopping or, like, washing dishes, what or literally just sitting like, sometimes my husband and I, because he loves reading books too, we'll just sit and, like, listen to our audiobooks while we eat dinner.
nice.
Because we're both so tapped out with communication and, like, touched out that we're like, "I love you. I'm gonna read my book instead of talk to you right now."
Yeah.
But it's also unhealthy because I read 140 books last year. But it's very unhealthy. But it's because it's a lot of disassociation. But I love it because I do a lot of leadership, like women's leadership books. I do a lot of like fantasy books and the ones that help me and then the ones that help me by getting me out of my brain into a fictional world.
Yeah. Is there
So
is
that's
there a f
probably
is there a fictional book that you read last year that really, like, stands out?
so many. I I really liked it's called Teddy and Arthur Are Coming Out. It was just a really good like LGBTQ plus kind of family drama slash um, feel good book. It was really really good. But yeah, that was
So
one.
I'm a big movie person, and I love, like, horror movies and stuff like that, and my wife, like, when she's, like, ready to relax, she's like, "I need, like, rom-com. I need, like, some." Are you
Yeah,
someone who needs, like, the feel-good sort of story when you're relaxing, or do you want you know, the the novel, the really detailed sort of dynamic?
yeah. A lot of the time, I will because I love movies too. A lot of the time, I will just engross myself in a book, and I have a um like color by number dot
Yeah,
game on my phone, so I color on my phone
yeah,
and then listen. But if we're doing a movie, like if I just want to like relax with my husband and just kind of like just, be in the moment, I my favorite genre is like action comedy. So
okay.
like a Kingsman kind of thing where it's just like absurd, but
Yeah,
has the good action or like, Avengers movies where they have the quick wit kind of comedy in there. Those are like my go-to for relaxing.
okay, very cool. So,
Yeah.
what would you say is next for the business then? Where do you wanna go, moving forward?
This is the year of slow and intentional. Um so really being like I said, intentional about what we're doing, how we're spending our time, being really capacity driven because I need it so that I don't, go back into migraine mode. But also, I know that that's the way that we're going to grow. So this year is for me a lot about getting out of the client work and getting fully in the CEO seat and doing a lot of marketing and doing more podcast episodes and hopefully starting. One of my clients, Mary, who I've talked about multiple times, her and I are planning to start a podcast of our own for the mental health field
Very
this
cool.
year. Yeah, and so definitely have you on, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, let me know.
And uh, really looking at creating systems and strategy around um, and like the framework. I mean, we already have a lot of framework, but it's like build as we go instead of like templated out and just applied and changed. So really making sure that framework is solid so that when we do start bringing in a lot more clients, um, we have that ready to go. And so really just solidifying the foundation we already have and then, growing. So it's like last year was we had 1 year of rebrand and overhauling all our services, and we had another year of solidifying that and really figuring out how to position ourselves. And then this year is really implementing all of that and starting the scaling process.
Hey, that's not do you set goals, like, straight up goals at the beginning of the year like that?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
like
I'm not so great at
we
it,
have
but
a
yeah.
Yeah, we had our staff meeting on Tuesday, and I asked everybody, I was like, "Throw out your craziest Bosco goal." And so we had some that are like most of our clients are East Coast, so one of our goals was getting more clients across the country.
Hmm.
One of our goals was doubling our revenue and things like that. So, my goal is to really just focus on the next right step. And I know that's for me, that's the way that I can function, and that's the way I can get to our goals because I need to know what the path is to get to the goal.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any advice you'd give someone out there who's wants to start their own business and get going?
Yeah, it's really hard. It is not for the faint of heart, but you can do it. And the way that you can do it is to ask for help. Like it's never asking for help is not a weakness, it's your biggest strength.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, help is something that, like, when you are starting out, like, it's really hard because you feel so vulnerable. It, you know, no matter what sort of type of business you're gonna build, like, you're gonna need people to help you along the way. So you might as well start at the beginning and get the right
Yeah.
advice as you're moving
Mhm.
along. So I love that.
Absolutely.
How can people find you if they're interested in connecting with you?
Yeah, so our website is heybosco.com.
We'll put that in the show
I'm on
notes. Yeah,
LinkedIn. We're on Instagram at hey_bosco. But yeah, always, if you're interested in more or you just want to say hi, drop me a LinkedIn message or send us an email, Brie at heybosco.com. We're, like I said earlier in the podcast, we are always up, especially if you're a therapist. If you have any questions or you just want some education, just let us know.
that's awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Bree. I really appreciate your
Thank you.
story and your journey. Um, This is Ryan Derousseau. Thanks for listening to Thinking Solo. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name or YouTube at Thinking Solo, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.